Luigi's Mansion 2 has been out on the Nintendo Switch for just about 2 weeks, which means it's time for me to sit down and give my full review of the game. My name is James, and I started this channel simply because I love video games. If that sounds like you, please subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos just like this one. Luigi's Mansion 2 was originally released on the Nintendo 3DS, which I've never played that version of the game, so being a huge fan of the original Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube and a decent-sized fan of Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Switch, I was super excited to be checking out this game for the very first time. Total, I spent about 15 hours with the game. I did not feel compelled to go back to any of the levels and try to find all of the hidden boos. Pretty much every single level I played just one time. Let's get started with the positive. So right off the bat, some positives that stuck out to me is that we've got the return, obviously, of Luigi and the return of Professor Egad. They have a really nice dynamic once again between the two of them. Seeing them get to reunite for this game is pretty exciting. They have a certain amount of charm to them, especially Professor Egad, and it was exciting to see both of them. The game introduces some new items, like a flashlight that you can charge up and a blacklight flashlight that reveals hidden objects. The introduction of some new items adds a certain amount of freshness to the early game that kept the early stages of the game feeling kind of new and noteworthy. And then another positive was that I thought that visually this game looked very good. I couldn't tell playing on the Switch that it was originally a 3DS game, and I'm not sure if this was a port of the 3DS game or if they completely remade the game for Switch. Either way, I found the game visually and technically to be satisfactory. Unfortunately, as far as positives goes, that's really all I got. So now we can move into the mixed category. It's a longer game. One of the things that I really liked about the original Luigi's Mansion was that you can kind of sit down with it in an evening, and so you don't quite have that anymore. Now you're looking at, if you're playing 2 or 3 hours a day, you're looking at probably a whole week to get through this game, which I don't really know if it deserves your time that much. And then also, if I said this was going to be mixed, but we're actually just going to go straight into the negative. And I have a lot. Unfortunately, I have quite a bit of negative stuff to say about this game. So I already kind of started talking about the length of the game, and you would think that as such a huge fan of the first game that a longer game with the same amount of care put into the levels and the charm and the lore and the characters, you'd think that a game that's twice as long, I would like it twice as much. This game doesn't have the charm of the first game at all. The first thing that I want to talk about is that it doesn't have the same flow of the first game. So the first game, you're Luigi, you're sent into the mansion, and it is a linear game, but you feel like you're exploring, and that's really cool. This game lacks that sense of exploration because Egad is constantly putting map markers on your map, and then you're also constantly being interrupted because the game is split into missions, which also I should probably note that the game itself, instead of exploring one large mansion like you do in the first game, you explore 5 smaller mansions, which that's fine, I guess, but you're also constantly being interrupted because every time anything even remotely interesting happens, you get interrupted by Professor Egad on your, I don't remember what they call it, but the Nintendo DS, where you can talk to him, similar to the Game Boy Horror from the first game. So Egad is constantly interrupting you. It's like a cutscene will play, and then Egad will pop up, and he'll basically just retell you every single thing that happened in the cutscene, which I found to be pretty annoying. Another thing is that I think that the 5 mansion structure could have worked if like you get to explore like the entirety of a mansion and then you go back and see Egad and kind of like tell him what you found and stuff. But the way that they decided, so each of the 5 mansions is broken up into like between 3 and 5 missions. So you're constantly I mean, similar to what I talked about earlier with Egad, it just feels like you're constantly being interrupted. And then with that, you're constantly getting pulled out of the mansion. And then when you get put back into the mansion, you often have to redo things that you've already done, making the game feel padded. On top of that, the mission variety kind of sucks. Pretty much every single one of the 5 missions has an escort Toad mission. There's always a follow the dog mission because the dog took some item that we need. One of the things that I don't like about the mission-based second game is that all of the rooms reset. So in the original Luigi's Mansion, once you cleared a room and the lights came on, that room was cleared for the rest of your playthrough, except for that one part. All of the rooms reset every single mission. So you've already cleared some rooms before, but you might have to clear them again, or you won't know if you've cleared them before. And then another thing that I really don't like, so one of my gripes from the first game for my review last week was that you had to save by going and talking to Toad. Well, this is worse, actually. They somehow took a step backwards here in that the game only saves after you complete a mission, which is fine in the early missions, the ones that aren't that difficult. But later on in the game, some of these missions could take me 25, 30, sometimes even 40 minutes. And so if you die, you got to do that whole 30-minute thing again. I don't want to really get into spoilers. But in the 4th mansion, there's a mission. No. In the 3rd mansion. In the 3rd mansion, there's a mission where you have to fight 12 waves of enemies. And so I found that section of the game to be very frustrating. While we're talking about combat, the enemy variety in this game, huge step down from the first game. There's green ghosts, red ghosts, and blue ghosts. And then there's big yellow ghosts that show up like at 3 points in the game, and that's it. And the different kinds of ghosts don't really have like personality to them like they did in the first game, and the bosses in the game they don't even come close to comparing to the gallery ghosts from the first game. Pretty much all of the bosses in this game are lacking character, that you don't really know anything about them. It's a huge change from what made the first game great. One of the things that I wrote down in my notes was that your basic ghosts that you fight, they don't have the like ghostiness to them. I wrote down that they feel like you're fighting like minions, like from like Despicable Me. And it seemed like the game didn't know how to make combat encounters more difficult without just making them like more annoying. You would be ambushed by like a bunch of green ghosts, the basic green ghosts, except instead of just being able to like flash them with your flashlight and suck them up, they're like holding they're holding a bucket in front of their face so that you can't like flash them with your flashlight, so that you have to, and you can't suck it up either. You have to wait for them to like lunge at you and then like run in a circle around them and then flash them from behind. It seemed like if you were ever fighting more than one or two enemies at a time, somebody in the room was going to be throwing stuff at you. And I know that part of the game is supposed to be that like Luigi is scared, that's supposed to be part of his thing, but there's a ghost. I forgot about this one when I was saying that there were only 3 different kinds of ghosts earlier. There's actually also the pink ghosts, which are really annoying. They turn invisible and they jump up behind you. It scares Luigi every single time, to the point where it'll interrupt your flow so that you won't be able to suck up those ghosts. And then if they get you when you're in the middle of sucking up a ghost, it'll break your vacuum thing, and then you'll have to kind of start sucking them up again. So I found that kind of stuff to be very annoying. I don't want it to feel like I'm like dogpiling on this game, but if I'm being honest, this is one of the biggest disappointments in a video game that I've had in a long time. That first game is one of my favorite games ever. And so the idea that they would just fumble the sequel so badly, I find it incredibly frustrating. I don't feel like Luigi's Mansion 2 was a step forward for the series, and I kind of understand why this game was stranded on 3DS for so long. And I'll also say that I don't know that I would recommend playing this game. One of the things that I feel like I should bring up is that I did feel like I had to force myself to finish this game. If this game had actually felt like an improvement on the first game, I think I would have wanted to play it more. Anyway, I think that's all that I have to say about this game for right now. Hopefully this isn't too negative and that y'all understand what I didn't really care for about this game. If you played Luigi's Mansion 2, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. Until next time, best way to keep up with me is on Twitter and on Instagram at James_Solar. Thanks, guys.